Our guy Vinay, or to be more accurate, Tony Sky Vinay, basically asking about the recruitment and hopefully eventual signing of JT Tuimoloau out of Washington, the state of Washington. And it seemed like a foregone conclusion that he's going to be a Buckeye, but Alabama, Oregon, USC, and others are charging hard, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that there are a lot of things that make sense for Ohio State's pursuit of him, but this is not a kid that's gone out and sought out the limelight and done a bunch of interviews or anything like that. So there's no game playing, but we don't know what the game is either. I mean, we don't know what his thoughts are. If Washington does in fact lose its defensive coordinator to Texas, that's not going to all of a sudden put Texas in the mix, but it will. It will help everybody else because Washington will probably lose a little bit of what it had going for it. I mean, it's always going to have proximity, but losing the DC, I think, would be a pretty big hit at that point. I think it's just the default mode that everybody puts everybody to Alabama or whatnot. And I certainly have heard him attached to Alabama several times or whatnot. I'm not really sure why anybody's going to SC at this point. I'm just being honest. I mean, they did get to the Pac-12 championship game on like a 2-game season or whatnot, but it's not that Clay Helton is really that secure in his job. I still like Ohio State's chances. I don't care what day he announces, whether it be signing day or he waits 2 months until after that and just signs financial paperwork instead of a national letter of intent at that point. But I think things are still trending well for Ohio State's chances with him. But I'm certainly not going to go out to the middle of the oval and declare he's 100% going to Ohio State, because this is a kid that we've never truly had a great read on because he's just not been very interested in this whole process.
I think if the NCAA comes out and says on like January 31st, no visits through like June, then yeah, I would expect him to sign on signing day, on the second signing day, because I think he's waiting to be able to visit places, and maybe that's not going to happen. And so at that point, you go with your number one. Or you pay for the trip yourself to drive yourself around campus.
Which we're seeing that a lot
right now, and we'll see what kind of comes out of that one.
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot. Kids are coming in. I hope the NCAA will relent a little bit and at least just put in some guidelines and say, okay, you can have prospects visit under these conditions and these that are safe for everybody involved, because this is ridiculous that somebody would make a college decision without the ability to visit the campus. And some of these people don't have the wherewithal to travel from coast to coast to see some of these different colleges. And I think that the process, the way it's been set up for decades, needs to prevail in this case. And they need to get kids the ability to come and visit their colleges. So, I get the safeguards that are involved, but no one's playing a game now for 8 months. So you don't really have to worry about protecting the sanctity of the team or whatever. I mean, if you're personally concerned about contracting COVID, just opt out of participating in the visits and or take the proper safeguards with social distancing and masks and whatever else. Hazmat suit, as you guys said earlier, but there's no reason why in some small limited form schools can't allow prospects to make on-campus visits. And I hope during spring football that'll be a possibility. And again, just come up with some very streamlined guidelines that they're allowed in these areas and they're not allowed in these areas, and that's just the way it is. I mean, I think that's just makes common sense. I think you don't want to risk in the student athlete currently to contract the virus because, hot prospect number one from Florida comes in with his great aunt who's got COVID or whatever, or his third uncle's got COVID. But, I think there's got to be a happy medium here somewhere.
I don't know. Ends up going on a visit and ends up getting COVID there. I mean, the NC2A is only worried about covering the NC2A's butt at this point. And, if it's an NC2A sanctioned event or whatever, they're afraid of any sort of blowback that's going to come to them. I honestly don't see any sort of relief coming for this class of 21. I mean, I thought I read somewhere that they were dead all the way through the end of April, to be honest, but I don't know. I mean, there's so many reports that come in
Right.
these times that I don't know where the dead period is at this point, but I'm not operating under any sort of belief that we're going to have anything for this class, and that we're just hoping to get maybe the evaluation period in some way, shape, or form for 22, and maybe even have a couple of camps if we're lucky.